folks. This is Paul Fain coming to you from a work from home video. My digital assistant, Petey the Wonder Dog, may bark, chew a bone, or jump in my lap at any moment. So just appreciate him for his brilliance and expertise in none of the topics we're going to discuss today. I have to say that it's good to be with you. I've run into many of you at the office a couple days a week, and you said, Paul, it's good to see you. Well, it's good to be seen. It's a crazy year, and we certainly appreciate your patience and want to encourage and support your resilience during these uncertain and volatile times. Petey says, amen, brother, amen. So this is the first of several videos we're going to publish on topics that are generated from your questions that are coming into the office this year. And we're going to start just talking about the election. So now I'm going to hit a screen share and hopefully pull up, there we go, pull up a brief presentation with some talking points. And it's based on the question, how will the election impact the stock market and my financial plan? Are there actions that we need to take? Well, I first want to give full and complete agreement that politics equates to strong emotional responses. It naturally leads to feelings about our money, our financial plan, our investments, our portfolio strategy. Excuse me. Our job as financial planners is to help you look at the data and make the best decisions regardless of how we're feeling emotionally. We know that we can't control policy changes. We can vote, but we ultimately can't control policy changes. But we can navigate them in the most efficient way we can once we know what those policies or changes to policy will be. This is a very important point. The evidence shows that election outcomes shouldn't impact what we have strategized in your financial plan and your portfolio. In fact, making investment decisions based on politics can often lead to bad outcomes. Going back to the period of the Great Depression and the Hoover administration, there's really no statistically significant evidence that shows either party or their policies have created a better or worse stock market. You can see here there's been over 23 presidential terms, and the positive and the negative based on Republican and Democrat is just not that different. What about market returns during presidential election years? And I can almost hear in my ear one of you or several of you saying, yeah, but Paul, it's different this time. Well, it was different in the 1930s during the Great Depression, when the market in that election year went down 8.2%. It was different in the period of World War II, when the market went down almost 10% in an election year. In 2000 was an election year marked by the dot-com bubble bursting. The market dropped 9%. And in 2008, in the Great Recession, when Wall Street crashed and took Main Street down with it, the market in that election year was down 37%. But you'll notice that the average return during presidential election years is a plus 9.5%, almost hitting the 90-year average for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And if you look, back over the years since the 1920s, you can see these events during these administrations on this mountain chart. You see the Great Depression back in the 20s. You can see the World War II downturn. You can see that Republicans and Democrats exchanged the White House every 4 to 8 years, almost with regularity. There's October '87 crash during the Reagan years. Here's an oil embargo in the 1970s, an oil shortage. I'm trying to get my cursor to pop up. Bear with me. There we go. We can see the dot-com bubble bridging the Clinton-Bush administration. the '08 crisis, bridging the Bush-Obama administration. But the most important point is look at the generation of the trajectory of companies and their value over time. It's expanding, and that's the powerful force of capitalism and corporate resiliency, investor resiliency, and the resiliency of our economy. Well, some people would say that the president and the White House are just a part of the equation, Paul. What about Congress? Well, it's actually a similar mountain chart. You can see that Republicans or Democrats have periods, sometimes long periods, where they control both the Senate and the House. You can see that, if my eyeballs interpreting this data correctly, Democrats have controlled both houses of Congress more often than Republicans. You can see more in recent history, there's been a divided Congress, split between Democrats and Republicans. But again, the value of the companies that make up the commerce of the United States grow and expand over time, regardless of who is in quote unquote power. So we know that we can't control the policies of the parties. We know that they're important. We know that we feel strongly about tax regulations, state laws, welfare programs, environmental issues, immigration issues, military, guns, racial equity and fairness, gender fairness. I mean, all these issues are bound up into these huge national elections. We can control to the extent of our voice and our vote, but more importantly, in the realm of financial planning and investment management, there are things that we can influence and optimize. You'll see at the bottom of this slide, we don't know what the future holds, but we can assess the options at our disposal as new information or new policies become available or implemented. For example, on the tax front, where we put stocks versus bonds, either tax account diversification or asset location, we can select funds that have low turnover, thus create fewer taxable gains on an annual basis. This year we've already done several rounds of tax loss harvesting and harvesting gains to offset those losses. We can use tax efficient vehicles. On the estate front, we can influence family and charitable giving, estate tax coordination in terms of wills and trusts. And these are just a few things, the timing of when to take income, when to use your RMD, when to convert a Roth. All these are things that we can influence and discuss and review with your attorney and your accountant before the end of the year, or in a period of changes in power in our political structures. So we just want to encourage you that, it's typically bad to make investment decisions based on politics. In 2008 and 2012, half the country was concerned about a Democrat taking the White House. The market came out of the Great Recession and performed very good during that time period. In the 2016 election, half the nation was very concerned about the surprise victory of Donald Trump, and were betting a market downturn. Well, the market proceeded to go straight up in the following year and is in the black for the last 4 years. And in fact, surprisingly, the broad index, the S&P 500, is up 4% this year in the face of a steep recession and a global pandemic. So we encourage you to stay with the strategies of your financial plan and your investment portfolio through this election period. Obviously, if you are reaching an emotional state that is hard to talk to us, if you have questions about anything we've talked about in this program, call us, email us. Nothing that we do is set in stone, is fixed, or can't be tweaked or changed or altered. But more often than not, we really should stay the course and adapt as new information emerges. So with that, I want to say hello and goodbye, and look forward to talking to you and seeing you, and appreciate you tuning in. We'll have more of these short programs coming up in the weeks ahead. Bye now. Take care.